Did you know that Big Beach in McKenna would today have hotels and condos on it, if not for a small group of Maui residents who campaigned in the early 1980s to preserve it as a state park? Two of them returned tonight to tell how that group became Maui Tomorrow. With sugar in trouble and pineapple almost gone, what will become of Maui's agricultural landscape? Who will provide the jobs, and will Maui's Central Valley remain green? The Robb Report looks at some alternatives. The General Plan Advisory Committee, 25 residents representing every walk of life on Maui, worked for 2 years to create a general plan for Maui's development for the next 20 years. But will the County Council take their advice? The Vice Chairman of the committee is here to explain what the general plan is and what it means to you. These stories and more in the premiere episode of Protecting Maui's Future.
Aloha, I'm Kainashiki, and this is my daughter Taylor.
Hi.
We were both born and raised here on Maui. In my lifetime, I've seen the population triple, young people priced out of the real estate market, and dependence on imported food and energy grow dramatically. Like you, I'm concerned about adequate fresh water supply, the destruction of our pristine natural beauty, and developing jobs in a sustainable economy for our future. I joined the board of Maui Tomorrow Foundation because I wanted to do something positive to protect Maui's future for Taylor and all our keiki. For the past 20 years, this small group of concerned Maui residents has facilitated discussion with the public about issues of concern to all of us and mobilized public opinion to protect our fragile island home. Our mission, our goal, has always been to protect Maui's future. This program is dedicated to that purpose. Here is the host of Protecting Maui's Future, Maui Tomorrow's Executive Director, Irene Bowie.
Aloha, and welcome to the first episode of Protecting Maui's Future, a presentation of Maui Tomorrow Foundation. For over 2 decades, Maui Tomorrow has worked in partnership with many community groups on issues including alternative energy, food security, the preservation of natural and cultural resources, and more, all vital to Maui's quality of life. Our hope is that each episode of Protecting Maui's Future will give you further information on these issues and let you know just what you can do to get involved. We're often asked just who is Maui Tomorrow and how did this group begin? So in each episode we'll tell you something about ourselves. Tonight we have 2 of Maui Tomorrow's longtime members, one of the organization's co-founders, longtime Maui activist and attorney, Anthony Ranken, and another dynamic presence in the Maui's environmental community, and also Maui Tomorrow's 2009 board president, Mark Sheehan. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, one of the segments we thought would be very interesting for folks on Protecting Maui's Future is the history of Maui Tomorrow. We've passed our 20th anniversary. I think we're into our 21st year now. And I spent the weekend going through a Maui Tomorrow scrapbook and really learning more about the origins, things, how it all came about. And that's really what I wanted to ask you to this evening. What I've heard, SPAM, things kind of came from that, but I would love for you to just tell us a little about that.
And I gather you're not talking about the luncheon meat.
That's right.
There's an organization
McKenna.
called State Park at McKenna, which had a catchy acronym, SPAM. That was founded in 1983, and Maui Tomorrow was founded in 1989 as an offshoot of SPAM. State Park at McKenna, or SPAM, was the brainchild of Dr. Rick Sands, who's my best buddy and a doctor at Kaiser. And he was kayaking one day off the south coast of Maui and realized that area beyond McKenna out to La Perouse was one of the few untouched places on Maui where there was just a vast expanse of beautiful beach. And he looked into it and found that that was actually privately owned and slated for development. He organized a big public meeting with the help of several other environmentalists that were involved in the Sierra Club at that time, and in early 1983 generated the initial public impetus for that movement, which became State Park at McKenna. I came to that meeting and decided that was what I wanted to put my heart and soul into as far as making a contribution to Maui. So, and then Mark became involved around the same time, and the three of us were board of SPAM along with a couple of other people over the years. And that basically, there were three major landowners at Big Beach at McKenna.
That's what I understand.
And we worked with the state legislature to get funding to acquire that land, and with the landowners to persuade them to, sell at reasonable terms. And gradually, one by one, those three parcels were brought into state hands for permanent public recreational use.
And prior to that, it had really been looked at those parcels could become a hotel development, is that right?
Oh, there were plans drawn up with a lot of condominiums and hotel-type development. Yes, it was on the drawing board already, but it was really the last chance to save a major beach on Maui on the South Shore.
Boy, the
And
community.
it's about a 10 or 12-year effort. It's one of those few places on the island where you go to and looks better now than when you first saw it.
Right. No, I think the community thanks you so much for those efforts and really beginning this whole road.
The community was very much a part of it. We took our strength from the grassroots support that we had. We had booths at shopping centers and the MCC Ho'olaulea and many other community events where we would have our displays and the big pictures of the beach and explain to people what was going on. And we basically signed people up one at a time. They would pay dues of just $1. We kept it affordable, very easy. And they would sign a postcard, which was to the governor and basically was our form of petition. And we delivered these huge stacks of postcards and got a lot of public support and legislative support that way as well. So it was very much a community effort, over 5,000 members.
That's what I thought I read, 4,000 to 5,000 signatures you were able to collect.
It made a big difference when we went to the legislature and started, and we're talking to people over there, that we had so many members.
And were you one of the ones that actually went to Oahu?
We went over there with pictures and to tell our story to the members of the legislature, who were surprised that we had a beach that beautiful. They thought maybe Oahu had a monopoly on them. And, but the fact that we had 5,000 signatures meant that we had some political clout.
So once we realized that that mission was largely accomplished in the late 1980s, we decided to try to expand the mission to look at other areas on Maui that needed saving, and to look more generally at the planning process and make sure that it was being conducted in a sound way that encouraged sustainable development and that preserved natural areas and shoreline access.
And this became the built-out scenario?
That was one of the founding members. There was Albert Perez,
who had been with the planning department,
who had been a planner, and he realized that if we built out to what was permitted in the community plans, designated in the community plans, that the impact would be extraordinary. Yeah. And he went around, Anthony and Rick and Albert went around and made presentations to community associations, and the county was kind of alarmed that we were letting people know what they might be in for.
And I understand there was a meeting at Kahului Library right around this time, and is that where you presented the built-out scenario? Yes,
mainly Albert Perez, who was the former county planner who actually left that job to join the initial Maui Tomorrow board, which was myself, Rick Sands, and Al Perez. We had a startup grant from a wealthy part-time resident of Maui who was very concerned about what he saw happening. Since deceased, unfortunately, just a couple of years after that. But that got us going for the first several months. And then, we had the resources to really study this and create this built-out scenario and publicize it. And then we, stirred up a lot of public interest and got dues-paying members after that, and started being able to self-sustain the organization Maui Tomorrow, which is now, as you mentioned, 20 years old. I was on the board for the first 14, and I didn't realize we'd reached the magic number 20. Congratulations. It kept growing over the years, you know,
Sure.
and I felt very good about finally leaving the board 6 years ago, because it was such a solid organization with such an excellent board in place. So yes, we started with the built-out scenario and some other projects that were very high profile, including opposing extension of the airport runway in Kahului,
Yes.
which was, we believe, would have caused a lot of additional too rapid development at that time.
Right, right. And I was speaking to Albert Perez over the phone this weekend, because he's now living on the mainland. One thing he said to me was, after the testimony for the airport, or against the airport expansion, that the limit of 3 minutes at county council testimony came into place. Before that, there had been no limit. But from looking at the old clips in the Maui News too, you can see the chambers just filled with people that had come to testify. And another thank you so much for the efforts on that.
We kept them up all night. Yeah.
There were two concepts that we realized were critical. What was sustainable? What rate of development was sustainable? And concurrency of development.
That was one thing I was going to ask
that if we
you
were
about.
going to, you know, that we seem to be staggering from overdevelopment and never having the infrastructure catch up with it. And we introduced the idea of having development that was concurrent with the infrastructure.
The roads, the schools, the water, all those things that make a community livable. The idea of concurrency is that those things either need to be in place before development is approved by the county or state, or go in place concurrently with it. The plans are there so that you know that it's going to be covered by the time that is built out.
And now, 20 years later, I guess we call that smart growth.
It's certainly one of the elements, yes.
But it started as concurrency.
Well, yeah, it's smart growth, maybe a little more general term, looking at how a community is structured, whether you have, you know, this shopping and schools nearby to where people are living.
Exactly.
And preserving open space.
And so fascinating that this is what we're looking at today, also with the 2030 general plan coming through. So,
and the whole issue of what is sustainable. On the way in here this morning, the governor was talking about sustainable and making the islands more resource independent.
Yeah, exactly. I thank you, Anthony and Mark, so much for coming in and sharing these recollections with us, and hope that you'll join us again so we can talk some more about the 20 years that have gone by and what we're looking to do in the future.
Yeah.